Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sunset Stitches. This is Digi-Talk number 4. My name's Trevor Conquergood, and I'm so happy to see you guys today. This is, of course, a special presentation of the Digi-Talk series, and I'm super happy to say I have a guest today, and so we'll bring my guest into the studio. It's my kid, Loren Conquergood. How you doing, Loren?
Hi, Dad. Can you hear me?
Yep, real good. Yep.
Hey, tragically, I cannot hear your audio.
Why not?
I don't know, but I can read your lips, apparently.
Turn your speakers up, Loren, or Nicholas, go upstairs
Yeah,
and
the
help Loren
speakers.
figure out
Oh,
what's going on.
the speaker did need to be turned on.
Okay,
Silly.
good. All right, and anyway, it's nice to have you, Loren. Thanks for being part of it. We'll kind of try to get right to it, I guess. Hey, what I was gonna say. Oh, maybe. Sorry, I cut Loren out of the picture there. It's nice to see everybody that's dropping in today. And so, hi, Candy, and hi, Jan. So great to see you guys. Hi, Joyce. It's nice. Hi, Robin. On the road again. Robin's always on the road, or at least they were last week. And nice to see you, Debbie, too. So awesome. So yeah, today's Digi-Talk presentation is all about layered applique. And so I know it'll be a popular one, mainly because I get a lot of questions about this and how to do it. And, people have seen, we've done so many designs with layered applique. And, all that said, where did I put my layered applique? Here they are. I had all these things set aside. The one thing I didn't bring was my own samples to class. Sorry, guys. Okay, so we're going to do layered applique. I just want to say that if you're a member of our workshop number 4, all of the designs from Digi-Talk are yours to download, okay? And if you're not a member, you're welcome to join. That is a discount code that you can use. It's Trevor99, and that'll get the price to go down to $99.97. There's a ton of fun that we've been having in our, workshop 4. Yesterday was class number 17, and we have a challenge going on right now. It's the Spiral Design Challenge, and that's going to be a fun one. Here, let me show you a couple of the stitch outs from that before I get too far away from it. The Spiral Design Challenge. Check it out, Loren. It's like a bird cage. That was supposed to be the Sacred Heart, and I'm not sure that it was fully successful. But the butterfly, I thought it's really 3D looking, this stuff, eh? What do you think of the girl's head? It's kind of cool. Anyhow, this is a challenge for members of our workshop. Everybody's meant to try and make their own designs and then send something in for the challenge. So yeah, that's our latest challenge. The last challenge we just had yesterday was the challenge review class for the spirograph. Do you remember? I guess it was 2 weeks ago. I was making spirograph here live in Digi-Talk. And anyhow, you guys, we're moving on from spirograph now, and we're into spiral. It's not the spirograph challenge. So when you're on the website, thanks, Nick, what you want to do is click on Digi-Talk, and then you can go and see all the past episodes. And like I said, if you're a member of our classes here at Workshop 4, then you'll have access to the download, right? To get all these cool designs. I think people are really liking the Winnie the Pooh ones, the Ren. This is my latest here. Make me big again, Nick. That's our latest Winnie the Pooh one.
Aw.
I know, I just hot off the press, right? But I've been kind of working on these slowly. So every week I seem to get another one. And actually, I'm still working on, what am I trying to say? The 100 Acre Woods. Remember that one's been like a multi-week kind of project. So I'm still working on it. But I'll show you guys an update on all that. So yeah, that's kind of our plan for today. Thank you, Nicholas. You're doing awesome.
Very adorable, yeah.
Yeah, so these are the downloads for today. If you're a member, there's a cool layered ice cream cone and a cool layered rooster as well as the cute little Winnie the Pooh. That's the latest Winnie the Pooh one. And then Loren last week was my guest, and Loren did the digitizing while I did the talking. What did you say, Loren?
What did I say about what? I think I said very adorable.
No, you said next time let me talk.
Oh, yeah.
Or something like that. Because apparently I did all the talking. Anyhow, Loren was working on this pansy. So that is an update, right? There's your stitch out. That's the first pansy stitch out. How cool is that? Were you guys here last week when Loren did pansies for us? No? Yes? Loren, how's it going with the pansies?
Good. I did 8 more, so a total of 9 pansies.
There's 9
if you
pansies.
were in the Digi-Talk last week, you would have seen the artwork for all the other pansies. I just chose to do the one in the middle. I thought it was, the most classic. But there's
What if
8 more now.
What if can you give us a sneak peek of where it's going or how it's coming along or something like that? Would you mind showing? Oh, thank you. Yes, that's what I want to see. Right
there.
Nice.
That's them.
Awesome. Those are beautiful. Look at that. Yeah. Great job. So, will you share those with the Digi-Talk then next week, maybe?
Yes, of course I will.
Okay, so when Loren's done stitching them, editing, whatever, when Loren's happy with them, you guys will get them. Very nice.
Very nice. I like them. They're great.
I had a lot of nice comments, Loren, this week from people saying that they enjoyed watching you do it. So just so you know, I know you don't get my email, but I did hear from several people that was cool. So
very funny, Candy. So pretty. So pretty.
Oh, that's a punny. It's punny.
So, yes, very punny.
Okay, so if you'll switch back to me, Nicholas, I'm going to get kind of down to the point of it here this week, which is the layered applique. And I was going to make a few designs and kind of talk about it. I put this slide in just to remind you guys that I did already a really great video about applique. If you missed it, you can see it now. You would visit the Sunset Stitches website. So notice at the top, like this is our home page right now, but there's a menu at the top with the main things, right? And of course, Floriani Workshop is the one that you pay to join to be a member. Same with Embroidery Club. You can pay to be a member. But the embroidery fonts, well, there's a new free font every Friday, and it's only free for the week. So this week is font 16, to the point. And thank you, Nicholas, for digitizing all these awesome fonts for us. He's a font master. And anyway, you guys, if you don't know about that, now, if you're a member of the FTCU workshop, you can download all the past weeks too. So all the best, I guess the point there is there's an archive page for all the past months, and you guys can get them. Okay, but what I wanted to show you was embroidery recipe box. I get distracted with all the great things here. Is see right here, it says applique stitches, the art of machine embroidery applique. This is a great video to watch, you guys. There is oh, that's not in here. Click on that. Apparently that's an image. That's bad web making by me, by the way. I'll have to fix that. If you visit this video, you can watch it now, and you can even download a kind of a cool set of stitches is what I would call them. But these are them here. And so I'll show you guys a little bit about that today. And I remember doing that video, we talked about pre-cut appliques, and I even showed how to open like a Brother embroidery file and then make the cutting file from it. Because a lot of people ask me that. So I'm not going to do that today. That's not a layered applique. If you want to know how to convert your PES or your JEF embroidery file into an SVG cut file to match it, right? Because that's what a lot of people want to do, Loren. is they want to use their scan and cut. Do you remember the scan and cut? You did a lot of cutting. When it's been a while, but I had you do a bunch of cutting. Do you remember that?
I do remember. Thank you, Jane, Dune, and Vicky. Hello again.
Do you remember making the you made a really cool binder when you were a student with your face on it, and you had cut a stencil out. Yeah, you don't even remember all the cool things you made.
I do remember.
I still have them all.
It was a folder.
That's a long time ago.
I spray painted it, didn't I?
That's the one. You spray painted the cover of a binder. You made a template. You cut it out, but it was actually your face. Anyhow, kids always blow you away when you got them, right? So you always do that for me. Thanks. Yeah. Okay, so the point here is that people want to take their Brother embroidery file, open it up, and then make a cutting file that matches it so that they can pre-cut. And that's a lot of times, and what I'm doing today, layered applique, people love to pre-cut them. So that is totally part of what we're doing today. I'm just not going to show how to convert it from stitches today. I'll show how to make them yourself today. So that's the plan. Let's get going. So visit the website. It's only, that video is probably 45 minutes long. It's a really good one to watch on applique. And you can download all these cool stitches. I mean, the stitches are really only if you own the Floriani software, because they are something that gets installed into it. So if you're a Floriani person, there's some extra stitches. If you're just watching, but you're not, using Floriani, you can still enjoy this video. Just those stitches won't be any good for you, I guess. But this was some of the topics during that one that applique. So we did that was a PES to SVG conversion. That butterfly is what I'm saying. Anyway, this is what I wanted to talk about today, which is how to do a layered applique embroidery design. And so we're going to go on to my embroidery screen, and we'll start with the here's my 100-acre woods, by the way, and I am getting, you can see I'm almost done it now. Like maybe by next week I'll have it. The lettering is going to take me a while. I've only just barely started on the little letters, so that part will come later. But so it's here that I wanted to get to, my ice cream cone. Yeah. So basically what this is here, I'm going to hide the artwork or the fabric images so that we can just see the actual stitches of the design, and understand that I made it so with a run stitch for the placement line of the first shape. Now you can do your applique two different ways. It's either a trim during sewing applique, or it's a pre-cut applique. And so if it's a trim during sewing applique, you would put a piece of fabric over top. If it was a pre-cut applique, then you would have previously cut out this shape, and you would have used some kind of a fabric prep that should enable you to stick it down. That is the idea here, that of course I use the Floriani Applique Wonder to prep my fabric for applique, unless it's for a quilt pattern, and I might use the Quilter Select Appli stick, which is very similar, just a lot lighter in terms of its kind of weight of it. But the point there is, it's something you fuse to fabric and then you stick it. And so at this point, you either lay a piece of fabric over top, a whole hunk of it, or you stick down your pre-cut piece. It's the same step. So the embroidery design would be the same. Then when you sew your next stitch, this is going to be, for if it's a trim during sewing applique, then that is going to be your stitching where you're going to trim with your scissors around the outside. However, if it's a pre-cut applique, then that will be a capture stitch that will stitch just along the edge of it. I will admit that sometimes when I do pre-cuts, I like to inset that stitch. And I can show you guys how to inset it just a tiny bit so that it kind of helps capture, cover it, so that it doesn't, running right along the edge does make it. So I guess that's optional. And I'll show you guys how to make that choice, I guess is the point. Then the design is going to do the blanket stitches, and I have removed all the blanket stitching that is underneath the ice cream cone because it's not really needed. I'm going to have another piece of fabric come along here later So I've removed those stitches. And that's, I think, one of the things people really want to learn today is how to do that removing. So then I get the next applique piece layer. And this time it does the same. And I like to use the same colors. I don't know if you kind of caught that, but green is like the first layer. Pink is like the second layer. And then I use the actual color of the thread for that third layer. And once again, I've removed the blanket edge stitching in that one area. Yeah, so this is what I'm going to show you guys how I'm able to accomplish this. The third one is really just a full-on applique because there's no remove stitching in it, right? But again, it's color 1, the placement line, color 2, the capture line or the trim around line. And I usually do a double run for that color too. Can you see that? So I'll go around twice. The reason I like to go around twice is it makes it, and I'll also maybe make it a little shorter, just because I'm going to trim really, I want to be kind of almost aggressive and, trim really close to it. And I don't want to cut it. I don't want to have it coming apart. And so a double makes it stronger. That's optional, but that's my suggestion on that layer. Then, of course, you do your blanket edge. Now, that's not a rule, and there's so many variables with applique. That is just one way that I do my appliques, and there's a lot of variations. But the cool thing here is the Floriani software works with artwork. What I mean by that, and oops, I just clicked out too far. I was just going to nudge it over a little bit. If I come to my artwork gallery, and this could be an image, I know a lot of people like to get them. SVG artwork stands for scalable vector artwork. And so, here, I'll get my little black cat out. This is perhaps something that you would want to applique, but recognize the challenge. Look at the size of the blanket edges and how well are they going to fit? How easy would it be to applique a shape like this? It's not that you can't. I could easily click on the applique tool and it will applique. It will make all the steps to applique here. I've got to hide this there. My kid finally showed me how to do that today. So now I can click on, for example, this is the tool for making applique, and it's going to struggle, I think, because it's going to try and put a satin border around it all. Hey, it didn't do bad, but it first of all, it defaults to a satin stitch style applique. So look, it did a run stitch placement line, and then it stopped, and then it did another run stitch. Oh, and then it did those eyes. Then it did a second run stitch, and that's your capture line or your trim around line. And now it's going to do a satin border. Yeah, did you have a question, Nick?
Yellow pointer.
Ah, the yellow pointer. Thank you, Nick and Candy. I have a little yellow pointer that I always restart. It lives on there all week long, but then I restart right before I go live, and I forget to turn it back on. And it just helps to follow me, doesn't it? Thank you, guys. So, yeah, we've got an applique tool, and you can just click on it. So if you have a shape, a vector shape, I guess what I was saying here was that the cat's kind of a complex shape for, what's not even 4. Let's set this to imperial. It's 3 inches tall, right? Kind of small. If it was a bigger shape, it would probably have a lot better luck, right? If it was like maybe an 8-inch applique or something like that, it's going to, seem a lot more appropriate. And it has more space to show before the border of the tail basically covered whatever fabric was supposed to be inside of there, and you can notice right now, I just want to point out that maybe what I really should do is actually just cut this cat out of here and start a new window and paste it over there so that we can kind of just focus in on what I just made. But if you look in the sequence view, it says here that this is an applique, and it has a properties box that allows me to interact with the way it gets made. And there are several choices, including checkbox to what layers do you want. So do you want a placement line? Do you want a tack down? Do you want a finish? And do you want underlay under your finish? So if I chose all 4, then I kind of got it all. And so there's a lot of settings that could be adjusted based upon different reasons. that you might want to choose them. I think one of the kind of most popular ones is to change the style of cover stitch. So right now, this is what you would call a satin cover stitch. You can see some dotted lines here. Those would be the jumps, right? So it must do, if we watch this stitch out, it will do the run stitch placement line for the fabric. But then it'll jump to show you where the eyes go. And then it'll do the second color, which is the capture stitch. Here, let's turn it in 3D, which is that, kind of trim around line or capture line. And I want to point out, if I look like really closely at where it is, that it by default has already been inset just that little bit, so that it's really perfect for both the pre-cut person or the cut during sewing person. Yeah. Anyhow, so then the final stitch is the border. So what you're seeing, those dotted lines, is simply the machine. If I turn off 3D, that's jumping to get, from this border, and then it'll jump and start sewing the border there. So those aren't stitches, those are simply jumps. But the idea is, this is, kind of your satin border. If I don't want to do a satin border, I can select it and come to my properties box and make it a blanket edge. So that's, I think, what the ice cream cone I made was made with what you would call a blanket edge like that. So now you've got your kind of design. Now, all right. So artwork is a key part of this, because if you don't have artwork, you're going to have to either trace it or make it yourself. So I guess really I can go either way. If you have artwork, awesome, right? If I can go to my custom shape library, if you can get it from the internet, or if you can use your scan and cut to scan it, you can get the artwork that's perfect, right? So here, let me get the artwork for the ice cream cone. And I've got two. So I've got the single scooper, and the single scooper is not layered at all. And then I do also have the double scooper, and it's already been kind of like layered. So I've done the, and these are I just saved the artwork. So really those are just the art shapes that I use to make the embroidery design that I showed you guys, right? Because really what you have here is, this is not embroidery. There's no stitching. If I look in my sequence area, it simply says that these are artwork shapes. And the cool thing with Floriani is I can do about 100,000 different styles of embroidery by just clicking on one of these buttons, and then perhaps changing their settings. So if you're doing a ripple fill, that could be fun, or maybe just a mesh fill would be, something, or a gradient fill. But today we were doing the, applique, but we were going to do the blanket edge applique like that. So, this is the idea. And if you have artwork, but it's not already layered, because this one, I kind of had done it, there's multiple ways to do the layering. And I think this is where some of the questions come up is, all right, let me show what I think people like to do. So they take their ice cream cone and they convert it into an applique. They take the ice cream and they convert that into an applique. They squish them together so that they have some kind of an area of overlap, and they select both, and then they ask the software to do the removing of the overlaps, which it does. Okay, and it does pretty well. Let's see here. I got a bunch of stuff. Now the cat's let's just clean this up for a minute and just have the one design that we're working on. So I'll get rid of all that. Okay. So we can kind of see how this sews out. Let's make it bigger. So it's going to do the applique bottom, and it's going to have the cover stitch. So there's some extra stitching in there, that I think is unnecessary, is what I'm trying to say. So it does the remove overlaps. And I will say that that is something that we've given some feedback on. So it's probably going to be better in the future. But at the moment, it kind of leaves a few extra stitches that I didn't think I wanted. And so what I'm trying to say is there's another way, if you're using remove overlaps, but you're getting kind of some, and let me undo for a minute. So if I click undo, we've no longer done the removing of the overlaps there. See how I'm back to like two separate ones? But I still will kind of get rid of the kitty in that. So I just have the one design to look at. The point here is if I make them, this is interesting. If I make them both a blanket edge, instead of making them both a satin edge, so I made the one, I'll do the other, make them both a blanket edge. Now, if I select both and I right click and ask for the remove overlaps, what it does this time is it trims them. So can you see what it did? And it works very well. So this one, I think, works the way it's intended to, but some people don't want the extra layer of blanket edges along the, see how there's here, you end up with like two blanket edges. I'm not, this is a personal choice situation now. I'm not going to say there's a right or a wrong. I'm just here to show that I have all the control I want. I just have to know what I want to make. So in this case, I can totally use the remove overlaps if you don't mind that the blanket edges are around each shape. But remember the ice cream cone that I started out with, you guys, it didn't have the light blue, didn't have any blanket edge. So that's, I think, what people really want me to show. And so I'm kind of doing that. Okay. And I'm just was sort of trying to explain why and how it works so that it would make sense. But I think we're probably just about ready to do that, right? So let's just say, and I know that I already have the ice cream cone artwork prepared, but I'm going to do it like from scratch. So this is the prepared one. And what I mean by that is, see, it already has, the shapes have already been trimmed. They perfectly match each other. But if I get the other cone out, the one that is the single scooper, Trevor, is what you're trying to say there, your single scoop, notice that this single scoop has not been layered together. They're totally two separate pieces. So what we'll do, I'm just going to clean up so that it's one sort of focus on my screen. I will layer them. So let's decide, and you can make that cone as small as you want or as much cone as you want. But if you want to make sure that, because they don't seem to perfectly fit, and if you wanted them to at very least just be, okay, that's enough, but let's trim it. So basically that's the point here is we want to make sure that the applique for the cone is the same shape. Sometimes, now once again, let me select these. Once again, I think this is a matter of a choice because I have definitely made embroidery designs where I tucked this fabric under that. Here, I think the color of the fabric kind of matters because if this is a dark brown cone, and you're using a brown fabric and then you're planning on using a super light pink up here, you don't really want that brown fabric showing through it. And I think that's why, excuse me, I got a drink here. I think that's why people want to know how to layer it without just tucking it under. Everybody's easily able to tuck them underneath, that we all, so you could make them into applique and then use the remove overlaps, but instead, what I like to do is just do it while it's still artwork. So here I have an artwork shape of a cone. I have an artwork shape of an ice cream, and I can either display them filled or not filled, but they're simply, Floriani software is really artwork software at its core. And you could have as many ice cream cone scoops as you wanted here. Let's just copy and get another scoop, but let's make them get bigger as they get up, like this kind of thing, right? So now I've got like a bigger scoop on top. Maybe that's silly. And it's like, don't the scoops get smaller? Trevor going, wouldn't that make sense? I guess it would. So then you could have it kind of however you want to, right? You can change obviously the colors of each scoop so that they kind of have a small, like each one can be individual there. So now we are all set with our layout of our ice cream, or maybe you don't like it, but you can play with it until you're happy. So here's the thing. Select the middle scoop, and then also select the cone. So I'm going to hold the control key down and click on, see how it kind of highlights some blue in the sequence tree. So I know I have 1 and 2 selected. And these are the, I know there's a lot of tools here and you just have to start to learn what they are. And if you mouse over them, it does tell you that, oh, look, that's a trim tool right there, that green one. In fact, it's got a little triangle beside it, Trevor. Why do they have the triangles beside them, Trevor? Just click on it. It means it's a little sort of library of tools. And in this case, there's trim, weld, intersect, exclude, and divide. And what I probably want to do here is trim, right? I've got 2 selected, and I'm going to trim. And so did you see it happen? Here, let me hit undo. Let me zoom in. So what I said was select number 2 and select number 1, and then use your trim tool, and it trims the artwork. So I can do kind of like a repeat, right? I can take this purple one, I can hold down control, select the pink one, come up here, click on the trim tool. There. So now we have the actual shapes that we need. If you want to digitally cut this, that's your SVG artwork right there. And so what I'll do is I don't want to, I want to keep the artwork because I want to save it, right? I want to go file, save as, and I'll save it as, SVG for my cutting machine, and then JEF or PES for my embroidery machine, right? So, but we haven't made the embroidery stitches yet. So now the question is, how do you make the embroidery stitches? So what do you want to sew first? I think the cone. So I select the cone and I go copy, and then I go paste, paste, paste. Now this is doing it. Okay, there's 2 choices right now. One is to use the applique tool. One is to make your own applique. And I don't think I care how you do it, but because I want to remove the stitching of the 3rd layer, it's easier if I make it myself, is what I'm saying. This is very easy to do. Was there a question, Nick?
Yeah, Marty just said, does it matter which shape is on top? She said that 1 minute ago.
Well, Marty, it kind of does, right? Like, because if you put what shape is on top, so the idea, technically, no. You could probably do the cone last, and it would still optically look like the ice cream was on top because they're trimmed. If you were layering them and truly having some overlap, then you would definitely have to.
I would interject and say, it does matter visually when you draw. You want, like, if you draw the thing in the background last, it usually sits on top of your picture. If you make the ice cream cone last, it will optically look like the ice cream cone is on top of the scoop. And so you want to build it reductively. You start from the cone to the cup to the cup. Likewise, if you have a chicken, you do the base, the beak, the eye, the feather.
Yeah.
You kind of start at the ground and build your way up. The flower goes stem, leaf, petal, center. Don't go or center petal if you want the petals to come out. Anyway.
That's a great comment though, Loren. Because that is really the 3-dimensional aspect of it, right? That it when you make the 2-dimensional embroidery and or artwork into embroidery, you have thread dimension, like stitch angles, and also layering. So it's a good question, Marty. I think it matters. But either way, technically, I think you probably could do the pink. But remember, the point here is I'm trying to show how to make it so that there's no blanket edge along the one edge. Yeah. And the easiest way for me to do that is to have 3 separate pieces. So I copy, paste, paste, paste. I select the first one, click on the run stitch tool, and I like to pop up my palette and go for like a bright green. And then I click on the second one and I make it a run stitch, and I go for like a hot pink, and then I close my palette again. So the second one, the one that I have selected right now, I also come to the properties box and change it to be a double run instead of a single run. And sometimes I make it a little bit shorter, like 2 instead of 2.5. And so then the third layer, that's the one that we want to make into a blanket edge, right? And technically I can use the applique tool to make that. If I click on the applique tool, I'm going to not want to include the placement and the tack down because I already made them, and I made them separate for a reason. But I can just include the finish and then make it a blanket edge and then show you how to get rid of the part you don't want, right? That's, I think, what people want, right? They want that nice blanket edge on there, but then they're like, but I don't want this part in here. And I totally get that. So how do you get rid of it, Trevor? Well, the easy way to do that is to use the shape tool. So this is the shape tool right here. So right now I'm using the select tool to select the shape. And you can see it's number 6. I've clicked on it and it's selected. It's highlighted in blue. If I click 2 tools down, this is called the shape tool. And it shows you the points that are used to make that shape. And the cool thing here is I can click right on that sort of point and then right click and tell it to split the line. Okay, so it didn't look like it did anything, Trevor. Well, it did. It split the line right there. So now go along to the other side over here. Click on that point and right click and tell it to split the line. And now you have 2 lines. So you're left with 2 appliques, one for the top and one for the bottom. Well, the one for the top you didn't want, so you just ditch it. And you're left with everything that you've got that you want, right? And if there's a funny stitch, sometimes you just have to play with either the entry or the exit points or where they are. Like it kind of looks like where I split it was not quite the right. Can you see that? When I get zoomed in like 2000%, well, now I can clearly see that I should have split it here and not there. So I'll split it again. And so now there's another piece that you can ditch, right? But now I got it cleaned up pretty good. So, okay. It wasn't hard to do. Let me go a little faster. So I take the second color. Let's fill that first color in with a fill so you can kind of see what it looks like, right? There you go. And then the second layer, same thing. Copy, paste, paste, paste. So the 3 at the end are the ones, the first one, I already have my colors now. I can just choose green, click on run stitch, then select the second one, choose the hot pink, click on run stitch. Don't forget, I prefer the double run for this layer with a shorter stitch length, so I adjust my setting. Now it's time for that third layer. That's the one that we want to do a blanket edge. And so I click on the applique tool and I adjust it to have a blanket edge. But now, do you understand why I turned off the placement and the tack down? Does anybody that's watching, can you tell me why I did it, or do I need to explain that? Because it should make sense now. I
understand.
Do you get it? Because
you already made your placement and tack down line.
I already made them, but why did I have to? Why can't I just make them part of the applique?
Because it generates them poorly. I don't know.
No, it's because, see, that's why I wanted to make sure everybody gets this. Because I want to split the applique to not include part of it, but I want the first 2 colors to include all of it. So I make them separate pieces. I just made my own. So it's a little extra, instead of one shape that's an applique, to take better control over, I can remove the part. So here, we've made this applique. Once again, you get your shape tool and you zoom in to find and try and get the right point, Trevor. Click on it. It highlights it. Right click, split line. So that's not hard. And then come over here, select this one, right click, and split line. And so because people don't want that layer of stitching, and when we do the remove overlaps with the applique, it makes it this is the reason. You can totally get rid of so that's the part there that you don't want. You just delete it. So now I've made 2 layers of my design, right? And this is let's fill in the artwork as we go. So what's left, right? The 3rd layer. So select your artwork, copy, paste, paste, paste. And now I have the 3 copies, and I take the first one, make it green, make it a run stitch. Do you have a question there?
Other 42 said couldn't create the applique, then break it apart. Would that do the same thing?
Yeah. Yes, you could. So that's so if you understand what they said, I'll just repeat it. Could you and you could put it on the screen so that you can read it, or can you make an applique and then break it apart to have the 2nd and 3rd layer? Totally work. And let's do that too. So let me finish this up, and then I'll show exactly what they just said, because you're right. There's however you get to the end result doesn't matter. I think people are just struggling to how to get there, and I'm trying to show what I would do. So I like to go old school and just kind of do a copy, paste, paste, paste. So I've got the first 2 all ready to go. The 3rd one, that's the one that I still use the applique tool, but I use it as a blanket edge. But I remember to tell it no placement, no tack down, just the 3rd color. And this time I don't have to trim it anyway. So really in this case, I didn't have to go copy, paste, 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 did I? I could have just left the tack down and the finish in, and I actually don't need layer 10 and 11. I could get rid of them. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's the same at the end of it, as long as you kind of build it that way. So removing I think the main part that people were missing was the split line. I will say there is a couple of small glitches I want to, while we're in this video and before we run out of time, I want to give a couple tips for people that are Floriani people that have had some troubles with this. So question, Nicholas.
Chris just said, I understand using the applique tool doesn't allow you to split the line, therefore using Trevor method for
That's Trevor.
splitting user. And then Joan said, when you delete those lines in the fabric, still attach oil? What you're asking. Is the fabric still detached oil?
So
When you delete those lines,
I heard it. When you delete so let's look at the finished one I made. So it sews the first line to show you where to place your fabric, because you could have a very large hoop and this could be a very small applique. And so the placement line just shows you where, then you can work with scraps, right? You don't have to be so accurate. So we always do a placement line, and then we do a capture line. If you're doing a trim during sewing applique, and the question is it's captured well. So at this point, you can do a blanket edge around one side and not be concerned about this other edge here, because that other edge is going to get sewn again by the kind of captured again by that next layer of fabric that you're going to put over top of it. And then that one's going to have a blanket edge around the side. And so these are very, this is, I think, what the quilters want, is really the least amount of stitching. I personally have no problem with this having the blue. We could have done this with a lot less kind of effort. So once again, if I get the basic applique piece and just kind of quickly make it with, so I love the comments that, because it shows that you guys understand what I'm saying. But the point here is, if you don't mind, I can stick these underneath each other. I can make this an applique with a blanket edge. I don't have to worry about copying and pasting. And same thing here, make an applique and give a blanket edge. And I can still use the right click to do all the removing overlaps, and it takes care of everything in the middle. Oh, sorry, I chose the wrong one. Right click, it's remove overlaps, not remove overlap stitches. And I knew right away, because when you do remove overlap stitches, that's more about fills, and it asks you for an overlap amount. Whereas with remove overlaps is like specifically removing it where it overlaps. It won't ask you if you want an amount like that. What have I got selected? Let me hit undo. That was kind of weird. So, but the point here is, if I right click and ask for remove overlaps, I don't know what that's about. It's acting kind of weird, isn't it? But the point here is, see, it makes the blanket edge go both ways. And if you don't mind that, then you don't have to do the Trevor method. That is quick and easy to do. But if you wanted to get, and it's really not the Trevor method, I'm just trying to help because I did my rooster. So notice if you look at this rooster, and that was one of the ones that I shared. It's the simple method, right? The blanket edges go here. Let me hide the fabric images so you can see the way the applique is layered. And I think the photograph of that guy looks really great. I actually took photographs of sewing this out. Maybe I'll take a moment just to show you guys what it looks like to stitch this out. So there's my first placement line. Now I lay a piece of fabric over top. It stitches that first run stitch, and I trim around. This, of course, means you're doing a trim during sewing applique. Like I said, if you were doing a pre-cut applique, then this step would be stick down. It would be before that. It would be this step would be stick down your pre-cut piece, and then the run stitch would have done the same capturing, at which point you continue with your blanket edge, right? And that's kind of what it looks like when you have the blanket edge just for part of it. And so, yeah, it's still, I mean, this is captured fairly well. The runs, if it's a pre-cut one, then you would want that extra little inset just to make sure that it was captured is the main thing. And so if you're pre-cutting them, then I'll show you again with the applique tool how we can inset that. But here we've got the second color placement line, lay your fabric over top, sews the run stitch, you trim around it, and then the blanket edge. And so the third layer is the same steps, placement line, lay some fabric down, trim around it, and then sew your blanket edges. So that's kind of how that works. But what I'm saying here is, if this bothers you the way I did it, nobody ever mentioned it before kind of thing. So I think it's reasonable to let the blanket edges go both ways. But if you want to take control, that is when you can decide. So really, we could make this design, and that's where, I was kind of heading was, I've got the artwork for the rooster and I haven't done it. So it's easy when you have the SVG artwork, right? If the rooster came in all vectorized, but this is just like a clip art. And it's not even particularly a good one, but it's it kind of helps me. I can totally see what I want. So now I'm going to learn to use the pencil, right? I'm just gonna. There's a clicking. It's basically just tracing. Click and click, and and you can just trace around your shape. And I'm using the sort of like the curve sort of option, if you will. So that means that I don't have to put a ton of points in. But you, of course, can backspace if you don't, if you make a point that's kind of oops, or and if you get to the end and you're like, why did I missed a point or it's off here, you can go to that shape tool that we looked at, and you can shape these things. So it's very easy to do, so how long does it take to make this? What would you say? Like, it depends on, I guess, how comfortable you are. Now here, let me go backwards, backspace. So here, I'm going to do an embroidery element here. Can you see that? This is not going to be, we're going to do 2 colors of like satin stitches. And so my thinking is, why not just make the fabric go under it like that, and not make it a harder shape for me to trim, or so that's optional, but this is how I'm going to do it, right? So when you're the designer, you decide, right? So I drew that shape. It wasn't hard. I just clickety click. I can click here to close it because I didn't actually left it open. So now I know it's a closed shape. Not that that matters, but I like that it's closed, because then when I click on the applique tool, oops, that's my slides popped up. When I click on the applique tool, it goes all the way around, and there's not like that little bit that I didn't close, so it's everywhere. And then, of course, if you want to do the blanket edge, you just choose the blanket edge. I like to do, you can still do the double run for the, see how there's 2 tabs for an applique in here? It's the second one where you can control the placement line and the tack down line. So see here, it says that the tack down's a run stitch. I could do a double run. If you were doing, you could do it also a zigzag, if you prefer to zigzag tack down stitch. So there's 3 options. When I do the double run, I can control the length of it. So I'll make it smaller. And this is that offset I was talking about. It's 0.5 millimeter set in. If you want it more, make it a whole 1 millimeter in. Click apply. And so it adds more distance between the placement line and the tack down line. Yeah, and that's what you can do with the applique tool like that. You can adjust it. So so go ahead, Nick.
Andy was wondering what stick down product do you recommend?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about the fabric prep, I was going to use the Floriani Applique Wonder. But you could use Quilter Select also has a wonderful one. It's a lighter one. So if you're doing kind of all fabrics and not, see, the difference with Applique Wonder is if you're doing a lot of embroidery on top of your appliques, the Applique Wonder is a little bit more of a stabilizer, whereas the Applique Stick is a very light stabilizer, but it gives you that ability to cut it and stick it. Because if you don't know, if you're using a digital cutter to make pre-cut appliques, you need to use a fabric prep anyways, because to make the cutting machine work, it won't stick to the mat very well if you don't use a fabric prep. So we use the Floriani Applique Wonder, but I also have a big roll of the Quilter Select Applique Stick. I want to point out this while I looked real close, and now when you zoom in, 100% zoomed in, that corner is got a very sort of long stitch to it. If I excuse me, I'm getting hit. If I select that shape and I just grab the shape tool, the reason it's kind of pointy like that is it's how close this distance is here. There's several things I could do. I could add a second point and kind of square this off, or sometimes just bringing the point in a little bit, like that small amount. Oh, that really changed. That small amount can really make a big difference. And then what I'm saying is if you really want, you can even right click and add a second point and try to make it be more open at that area so that it totally can change. You can make effects by playing with the points, if you need to. I also have another favorite thing to do, and that is, sometimes I do stitch edits at the end. If there's anything that's just that one little stitch is kind of long, you're like, everything's perfect, but I just wish it was like a little shorter. There's a tool right here, stitch tool. And I can grab it and I can make it any size I want to. So stitch edits are great. The only thing with stitch edits are they can be lost if you redo the sizing or the generating of the stitches. So there is a way you can lock it, and basically preserve it as stitches. So that's why I say I usually do that last. If I want to fuss over any little one stitcher or something like that, I'll do it at the end, and then I save it to my brother embroidery format or my journal me format, and then that's preserved in there. Okay, so if you wanted to add an embroidery element over top of this, then I would simply use the pencil to draw it. Right, I can go around the outside and kind of draw the curvy part as embroidery stitches. If you want, to do 3 layers, you could. Or if you're like, actually, I think I'll just do kind of like 1 layer that's both the pink and the red because it's not a very big area. And so I kind of just draw what I want. Can you see that? And what I made was an artwork shape. Here, let's fill it in with color, make it darker or something. See, I made a shape. It's not embroidery yet, but I can make it embroidery. You want to make it in run stitch, click on run stitch. But I thought maybe satin, right, would be nice. Something like that. So yeah, and then but I was thinking 2 colors. So once again, kind of using my own pencil. So I love to digitize artwork. If you give me a picture, it doesn't take me long to trace around the kind of parts that I want, and it kind of gives me the most control. Now here, I'm going to have a fabric that's going to come over top. So kind of instinctually, I don't know if you saw that, I started putting the underlay, the embroidery, under it. You know, that's just because I'm an embroidery digitizer, and I know that I kind of want a little bit of embroidery, so the fabric is what, you know, there's no gap, right? I make sure there's no gap there. So here, let's make that one also a satin piece, but let's make it, you know, its own color kind of thing. And maybe I'd make the red one be the second color, so they kind of look like that. I got a funny split line in there that I don't want. I clicked on auto, and the software put in a line that I don't want. So here, clean that out and right click. Yeah, and maybe play with the inclinations, but essentially it's all kind of, this is how I built this design. So I started by making an applique. If you watch, and so remember, the rooster's one of the ones that I've already made. And if you watch it stitch out, it starts out by doing, actually, I did the feet first. So then the tail. And then that little bit of embroidery that kind of went under the tail, or covered up the tail. So then now the next layer of applique. So I did a layer of applique for the body. And then the applique for the body, I let have the whole blanket edge. So it was real easy, right? I just drew the shape and clicked applique. I didn't worry about trimming or anything like that. Then the next shape I did was right on top. So this time I chose to not remove the fabric. You know, if that was going to be a white wing and this was a red fabric, then I would have needed to have done another sort of step, right? I could have, can you understand that this applique for the body has no way to define a hole. We made a big chunk of red fabric, and then we put a little white wing on top. That might not look good. So if that's where I think we need to know, oh, okay, how do you remove the wing out of the body, Trevor? Well, it's not hard to actually to do it. If you have, once you have the shape, so here is the body and here is the wing. Let me actually just select the two shapes and copy them so I can demonstrate what I'm saying. I just made two separate shapes and made them both an applique. So it's really color 1, 2, 3, color 4, 5, 6, you know, to do this. Here, let's actually cut it right out and then paste it into a new total window. So I didn't stop right now to say, like, if you got questions, Nick, and I realize we're getting close to, you know, I don't like to go over on these, so I'm trying to make sure I don't leave this hanging in an awkward spot. But what I was saying here was, if you need to remove the wing from the outer, so what I can do is click on the artwork tool and go right back to artwork. So now we're literally just a piece of artwork for the wing and a piece of artwork for the body. And what I can do is select them both and combine them. So what that does is it makes it one piece. It's one piece of artwork. Does that make sense? So if I was to click on run stitch, this would be both the inside and the outside. You know, if I clicked on, you know, copy and paste and made the second one a pink run stitch and made the third one, you know, an E-stitch, you would get that. So what I want to say is, if anybody's having troubles with layered applique, don't be shy to reach out to me. If you're a Floriani person and you've got the Floriani software and you're trying to do, because I know the several people right now that are working on the, Amy Bradley has a beautiful Halloween quilt, and lots of people are working on it. And if you're getting stuck and you need some assistance, I'm happy to help, you know. So just send an email. Thanks for visiting today, Lorena. I didn't give you any talk time. Were you working on your designs there while I was talking to you?
We sure am.
Good. Well, I hope everybody's working on something while they're listening to Trevor. It was nice to see a lot of great names in here. Thanks for your comments, Chris and Joan, and anybody that I'm sticking around for a couple more minutes. If you want to ask me a question about how to do layered applique that's on point, if you're going to ask me some brand new question like how do you use the quilt software, we'll defer for next time. but essentially, I wanted to give some tips and tricks. I will say that I find it, if I start with the artwork and I create it myself, it does give me the most control. If you don't want, it wasn't hard to add the split lines, and I think that's going to give all this, anybody who's got an applique shape and they're having a funny part, try removing it by just right clicking and doing that, split the line. I think that'll be the easy to forget the remove overlaps, just split it yourself is what I'm saying. So hey Phyllis, I hope you do catch the replay. And if you have any questions about this, because I know that Phyllis is one of the people that's working on that beautiful quilt, please let me know, because I've had lots of people write, and I said I would do. So I've done a couple videos now. There's today's one, and because the other, what I didn't show you today was how to use the cool, funny stitches, right? So I know that my screen's still big like that. So instead of doing it as a, if I click on applique, but then if I click on motif, so instead of a blanket edge, if I choose motif, remember I said I made a series of cool applique stitches is what I'm trying to say. They're here. You can download them from my website and get them. Oh, don't go past them. There's like 7 of them. Yeah. So if I get, for example, this number 6, it's kind of got a big size. I probably use it smaller than that, like 5 or something, but yeah. And if maybe that's still a little bit big. And so that was size 5, maybe 4 is a better size. And you can kind of see what I mean. But if that one's too busy, try number 5 and see that number 5 is kind of like just little triangles. Oh, once again, the size, the default size of 15 in a small applique shape just is not possible. You have to adjust the size to be kind of appropriate to the shape. So yeah, so you can do any shapes you want. Anyway, I just wanted to slip that in at the end. There's some extra stitches. So anyway, Loren, good luck sewing your pansies.
Thank you.
I know everybody's excited to see them.
Yes, everybody. I'm excited to see them. Hopefully I don't run out of the fabric that I chose.
What should I digitize next week? You guys leave me a comment. What I mean, I'm still working on Winnie the Pooh, but is there a kind of embroidery you want to see done? I kind of got a hanking to do a beta fish one of these days, but somebody said logos, they're like, I want to see you do a logo, Trevor. I made a logo recently. It says Cleveland, Ohio. It's not really a logo, but it kind of is. That's kind of logo-ish, right? I don't know. I'm going to Cleveland, Loren. I'm going to be gone at the end of the month for a week.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll have to see.
Cleveland, here we come.
Yeah.
Except for not me.
Just me, not Nick, not Loren, not Lorna. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much to everybody that tuned in live today for today's presentation. I will check the comments later and I will personally respond to them. So if you have questions, you're welcome to type them in there. You're always welcome to send Trevor an email, trevor@sunsetstitches.com. I just want to give a quick shout out to everybody at RMK Distributing, the Floriani software. If you guys don't already have it, you should go ahead and download the trial version. It's called Creative Express, and you can learn a lot more about it. So that's I'll put that in the comments, how to find the Creative Express software. Yeah. Anyway, I want to say thank you to Loren Conquergood, aka Leo. It's awesome having you. I promised, I told you, I said I'm inviting you as a guest, but I'm probably not going to let you talk today because I want to teach. But next week, I want to come and just work on something, and maybe we can chat a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
If you're free.
Oh, yeah. I probably will be. We'll see.
Okay. And if not, because I have some other guests coming that I've been arranging. So I want to make sure that I reach out to a few more people and arrange for a few guests to come and kind of have a little bit of fun time with Digi-Talk. So if you want to chat with me while I'm digitizing so that I can shut up and get to work, maybe you guys can do the chatting instead of me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, anyway, so nice to see everybody. Thanks, Donna, Chris, Candy, and everybody. Hope you have a wonderful day. Don't don't forget about the free font of the week. Okay, that is called To the Point. It's only free until Friday. Otherwise, there's a brand new font coming out on Friday. And so if you want to come back on Friday for free font Friday, we usually go live. It's usually a pretty quick live, maybe 30, 45 minutes. We were almost an hour last week, but
Dad, look
so,
what
yeah.
Linda says. I love the roses on your shirt. You were wearing it when I met you the first time.
How nice. Where was that, Linda? She'll have to let me know.
Give her a second.
I bet I was wearing this shirt when I met most all y'all. Because I wore it to at least 100 sewing stores, I'm pretty sure. It just goes to show that the embroidery looks fresh and brand new, but the black denim, the Be So In, that's so awesome. Are you going to see DJ and Debbie are visiting the Be So In? I want to say it's happening now, like maybe this week or something, or next week. I saw it on Facebook anyway. Make sure you say hi to them, Linda, if you go in, if you see them. And I hope to visit the Be So In again in 2025. So be sure to tell Mary I got new stuff for you guys to come out and go on the road again. So yeah, in the meantime, I think we better let everybody go. I got a lot of work to finish up today, Lorraine. I got some classes to deliver. And thank you, everyone, for being so wonderful supporters of Sunset Stitches. So it's great to have so many wonderful guests for our live. And so look forward to Digi-Talk next Wednesday and see you Friday for Free Font Friday. Yeah. Thanks, Lorraine. Thanks, Nick. See you guys later.